Hello and welcome to another edition of An English Guy Watching Wrestling. I'm the English Guy, I'm Nick. Thank you so much for clicking on another video, I really do appreciate it. In this one we're going to be covering the Impact pay-per-view against all odds. I'm tongue-tying myself yet again in these intros. Done it right there, again. Impact pay-per-view against all odds, which took place on the 12th of June 2021. And it was a very good pay-per-view for that reason. Jump right into it. Opening matchup was a street fight between the Good Brothers and Sami Callihan and Tommy Dreamer. Now, of course, Sami Callihan has been in a quest to get the Impact World Heavyweight Championship away from Kenny Omega, because obviously Kenny Omega is not signed to Impact Wrestling because he is signed to AEW. He's also the AEW World Champion. And Sami really wanted to face him against all odds, but that honour went to moose, which will be coming a bit later on. But he decided that maybe the Good Brothers, who like to interfere in Kenny's matches, wasn't going to be at Daily's place, which is where the main event took place, but I said we'll cover that in a bit. So, the Good Brothers were stuck in the Impact Zone, having to face Sami Callihan and Tommy Dreamer. And even though Tommy Dreamer and Sami do not get along, they were tagging together because obviously, like a lot of the other Impact roster, they want the Impact World title back on Impact Wrestling around an Impact Wrestling wrestler's waist. So that kind of led to this matchup. And as street fights go, this was a good one. A good, simplistic, but good street fight for tag team match. And you don't really see that many tag team street fights these days, in all seriousness. I don't remember seeing one for a while. But you know what? This was a good one. I really liked how these four men went at it. And Sami getting the pin was the right call, because in the future, he would possibly be getting a shot at the winner between Kenny Omega and Moose, which I'll be covering a bit later, as I said. So, I say possibly, by the way, for Sami, I'll be covering that later on. But this was a good opening matchup, and I really liked how they interact with each other with not much weaponry, shall we say. Some shenanigans for the Good Brothers, as you'd expect, because it's the Good Brothers. But Sami and Tommy seem to work as a tag team, even though they don't get along, because of obviously them really trying to do things very differently. Because Sami is not really the most popular guy in Impact Wrestling. Tommy Dreamer is, because it's Tommy Dreamer. But they worked well, and I thought this was a good opener, and how you kick off a show in a very good way. And interesting matchup, but a fun matchup. So thumbs up to all four men for producing a solid, good opener. The next match was Joe Doring versus Satoshi Kojima. And this is a matchup where you've got two men who are definitely not strangers to each other, but the first time they've ever met in a singles match in Impact Wrestling. These two men have met many times in Japan in the past. Joe Doring was a mainstay in All Japan Wrestling for many years. Kojima was also part of All Japan Wrestling for many years. And, you know, when you've got two guys like this who are veterans in the business, especially Kojima, you're going to get a very good matchup, and that's exactly what this was. I thought this was a battle of real wrestling strong style, and that's kind of what you got here. Even though Joe Doring did mix it up a little bit, because Joe Doring is actually one of the very few guys in wrestling. Sorry, since Kojima's been there, his face guy is not that big. Doring is bigger. But you know what? This was actually a very good matchup, and this is a testament when two men have met each other many times in the past. Showed it here, and you could tell it was a really strong, hard-hitting, back and forth matchup. And Doring getting the win was a bit of a surprise, to be honest. Even though Kojima did win his last match in Impact Wrestling, I was half expecting Kojima to win this one, but no, Doring managed to get the best of it and hit a spinning set-out powerbomb for the win. And you know what? Nothing wrong with that, because Joe Doring put in a very good match here, and this is one of the very few matches I've seen in a singles match in Impact Wrestling. He's usually part of a tag team with Violent by Design. But here, no, singles matchup and held himself very, very well. But so did Kojima, but then Kojima never doesn't have himself on the ring. He's a 30-year plus vet. He knows what he's doing, and it's Kojima. What else can you say? Absolute legend. But this was a very good showing from both men. I thought Joe Doring put in a very, very good performance here, and probably, as I said, his best performance to date in AEW against Kojima, who was also just so good. But Doring picking up the win in a literally very convincing fashion. Tongue-tying myself yet again. But you know what? Nothing wrong with that. That was a good, clean win for Doring. Even though there was one or two hijinks from Violent by Design, didn't mess up. Kojima came back strong, but then the pinfall went to Joe Doring for and pick up a well-deserved winner. I thought the drawing was very good. So thumbs up to both men for producing a good match. And this match was a fatal five-way match between Ace Austin, Chris Bay, Rohit Raju, Peter Williams, and Trey Miguel. The winner would become the #1 contender for Josh Alexander's X Division Championship. And no other way to say it, the X Division in 2021 has been outstanding. It's been so good. And the X Division has always been the forefront, shall we say, in a lot of ways for Impact Wrestling. When it was TNA back in the day, the X Division is what really made it fly. It's still flying today, and it's flying very well. No different here between 5 superb wrestlers. And when it comes to the X Division, you're going to see a lot of different things. You're going to see a lot of high flying, you're going to see a lot of great ground wrestling, you're going to see a lot of high impact movers, no pun intended. And just 5 fantastic athletes go at it and knock it out of the park. That's exactly what these 5 did. And they've each got their own strengths, and they played to them in this matchup. They really did. And I thought this was a very good continuation of what the X Division is all about. The finish was a bit confusing, and I'll say why. I was not half expecting it to finish the way it did, because Madman Fulton came out after he was hit with a Super Canadian Destroyer by Peter Williams this past week on Impact Wrestling. I really thought we were going to get a decisive winner here. We did not. It was ruled a no contest when Madman Fulton came out and just destroyed everybody and showed what a monster he is. And him picking up three of the X Division wrestlers at once to, lay them out was crazy. But it just shows what Madman Fulton is, a monster. And it was a very good matchup, though. I thought this was a great example of what the X Division is all about. As per usual, they do that many times in Impact Wrestling. They just knock it out of the park every time. And this was very good. Good to see each man get a chance to show what they can really do. And when it comes to fatal matches, I'm not going to say fatal 5-way matches, because it could be 6 people in the ring, it could be 4 people, it could be 10 people, as weird as it sounds. They always get a chance to chop and change and have a little exchange with each other. They're here, and it's one of the best ways to do a fatal match, shall we say, in that regard. They did it here, and it proved very ferocious. So great match. Shame we didn't get a decisive winner, but thumbs up to all 5 men for producing a very good match here. This match was W. Morrissey versus Rich Swann, and of course, this matchup has been building for a little while now in Impact Wrestling. Since W. Morrissey has been in Impact Wrestling, he has been playing the guy who everyone else is against him because of how he was treated in the past, who he was in the past. Everyone knows who he was in the past, of course. And Rich Swann is, I'm going to say, the soul of Impact Wrestling. He is former Impact World Champion, outstanding athlete, no other way to say it. And Morrissey, since he's been in Impact Wrestling, has just been on a tear for everyone. He's undefeated in Morrissey. No, sorry, I don't think that's true. But anyway, he has been tearing people left, right, and centre. And even though he did win this matchup, Rich Swann did get a chance to show why he is Rich Swann. But this was Morrissey's night, and he's been dominant. And he proved it here against arguably the best all-round, I'm going to say. As strange as it is to say, because there's some fantastic all-round wrestlers in Impact Wrestling. Perhaps the best all-rounder in Impact Wrestling, Rich Swann. Morrissey won the match in convincing fashion and convincing fashion. Tongue yet again. But anyway, this was Morrissey's night, and I was kind of surprised he won this matchup, because I thought Rich Swann was going to get retribution after Morrissey beat Willie Mack this past week on Impact Wrestling in a no disqualification match. But no, this was Morrissey's night. And you know what? He's been on a tear, and it's been showing, and I think his dominant ways are going to continue. So the sky's the limit for Morrissey at this point, I think. So thumbs up for both of them for producing a solid, entertaining match. This matchup was a singles match with Tennille Dashwood versus Jordynne Grace. Now, the Knockouts division in this regard has been a bit unusual as of late, with Tennille Dashwood kind of being face and then being heel again. It's been interesting viewing, and of course, there was a long time that Tennille Dashwood was trying to have Jordynne Grace as a tag team partner, and this matchup kind of spilled from this past week at Impact Wrestling, where Tennille Dashwood was hosting a show, and where the guest comes on and asks Tennille Dashwood questions, not the other way around, which was quite interesting. But of course, her guest was Rachel Ellering, who was Jordynne Grace's tag team partner, and Jordynne Grace wasn't particularly happy with the way that Rachel was being treated. So basically, this match came from that. And Tenille Dashwood won the matchup, but this was actually quite a good match. To be fair, I don't remember seeing these two in a singles match against each other before. Sorry, but I thought this was very well paced and. Tenille winning after the mistake by Jordan Grace after the distraction of Rachel Ellering that caused her to lose was interesting to say the least. And I think could be Ellering and Jordan Grace going their separate ways and maybe clashing in a match in the future. Who knows? But I did enjoy this one, to be fair. Another good advertisement for the Knockouts division, sorry. And Tenille winning was the right call. I think she's been on a very good roll as of late in Impact Wrestling. Her character's been here and there, but it's been entertaining in the best way possible. Because when someone who could kind of pull you in and say, "Okay, I'm face now. I'm doing it well," and she did, it's good. But then she went back to being heel. It was entertaining there as well. So that just shows the great character work by Tenille Dashwood. But this was a good matchup. I enjoyed it. So Tenille winning was the right call, and I didn't expect her to lose this match, and she did. Jordan Grace has been a bit of a not the best record as of late, in Impact Wrestling. Sorry. So to see that happen again, thanks to Rachel Ellering, the future is going to be very interesting for those two. So thumbs up to both Tenille and to Jordan for this one. And this match was the Impact Knockout Tag Team titles. Fire and Flavor defending the titles against Kimberly and Susan. And since Fire and Flavor have retained the titles, they've been the most entertaining tag team to watch in the Knockouts division because of just the fact they can run their mouths, but they can back it up with good wrestling. And this was a good tag team title match. I only wish it was a bit longer. It wasn't the longest matchup, but sometimes it happens. Fine. But this was a good, fun tag team knockouts title match. And they retained the title as Fire and Flavor, and I'm glad they did because as much as I do like Susan and Kimberly, I think they're awesome. I was hoping Fire and Flavor would win because I think they've got a lot more legs as champions to go, and they're going to continue on. So thumbs up to all four ladies for producing a short, entertaining match. And this match was the Impact Tag Team titles. Violent by Design of Dina and Rhino versus JK of Black Truth and Crazy Steve. Now, I might be wrong, but I think Violent by Design can do the Freebirds rule. And if you don't know what it is, it's when if a particular faction has more than two wrestlers and they have the tag team titles, they can chop and change who the champions are because Joe Doring won the Impact tag team titles with Rhino not too long ago on Impact Wrestling when they defeated Finjuice. So, of course, Doring had a match earlier in the night against Kojima. So that led Dina to hold the tag team titles on this occasion with Rhino. And this was a good match. I enjoyed this one. And I really do like Decay getting pushed more into the title picture because Rosemary had a knockout title match. Get to that a bit later. But this was a very good match. I thought this was a great advertisement for the tag team division again. And, Black Taurus, he's becoming one of my favourites watching Impact Wrestling. He's so good. A luchador by nature, but the power is amazing for him. Showed it in this matchup too. And not to say that Crazy Steve didn't show very well too, because I think he showed very well here. But this night belonged to Violent by Design, who had a good showing with Rhino and Dina. And Dina picked up the win, winning DDT Crazy Steve in the middle of the ring. And I think Dina has had the most bad luck out of Violent by Design in recent times. He's been losing matches for the teams. He's been losing matches himself in singles matches. But he picked up the win, which I think has built up a little bit more faith from Eric Young in him. But you know what? Them winning the matchup was the right call. Even though I would have minded to see Decay win the match. I do like Violent by Design. I think they're very good. They're starting to become one of my favourite factions to watch in Impact Wrestling because of the way they're changing things up a little bit. They're preaching the gospel, what Eric Young is, I should say, a bit differently, and it's working. But this was a good advertisement for the tag team title division. Or the tag team division in general, really. That's what I meant to say the first time. But, no, it's a really good tag match. So, thumbs up to all four men for producing a good tag team title match here. The next match was the Impact Knockouts matchup with Deonna Purrazzo defending against Rosemary. And this was my second match of the night, to be fair. Not the first time that these two have faced each other. Apologies. Not the first two time these two met each other in the ring, and Rosemary pinned uh, Deanna Prazo recently in a match at Impact Wrestling. So the momentum was on her side. And you know what? This was momentum that was used very well by Rosemary. This was a very, very good show from her, and probably her best match in Impact Wrestling I've seen to date. And Tenille Dashwood, sorry, my apologies, Deanna Prazo doing a very, very good showing here too. And I thought this was what the knockouts division is all about. The differential, the way they do things in the knockouts division. Obviously, Deanna Prazo technically being the best female technical wrestler in the world right now. Really, she really is, and she showed it. She was a very, very strong, very, very hard hitting and great technical wrestling from her. Rosemary played to her character superbly in this matchup, and that's what kind of threw Deanna off from using the Fujira armbar, the Venus de Milo, the double trap armbar. And this was what, when you've got two very different wrestlers, very different personalities, very different way of doing things, put them together, make it work at the right time, it's going to grab your attention. And that's what it did. This was a good matchup, but also a good wrestling match too, from both women. And Rosemary, get the early advantage and showing her dominance early was, in a very strong way, was a good showing from her. And I honestly thought this could have been Rosemary's night, but she wasn't, unfortunately. She didn't win the matchup. I was half expecting her to win the match and carry the momentum she's had, but Deanna Prazo managed to find a way to pin her cleanly with a power driver. And you know what? It's been Deanna Prazo's year. No other way to say it. She's been fantastic since winning the Knockouts title. I don't think she's showing any signs of slowing down. She's pretty much beaten everybody in the Knockouts division. Who's left? Who knows? We're going to see what happens, won't we? But this was a very good matchup, and I think this was generally one of the best matches I've seen from Rosemary in Impact. So definitely thumbs up to both ladies for this one, for sure. Which brought us to the main event, and my match of the night, Moose going against Kenny Omega for the Impact World title. Kenny Omega is the champion. Now, this matchup was not held in the Impact Zone. It was held at Daly's Place, where AEW have been holding their events as of late. So, interesting to say the least. And there was a particular reason why Tony Khan and Scott D'Amore decided to get together to talk to each other and say, maybe we should have this match somewhere else where the Good Brothers could not get involved. Tony Khan loved the idea, so did Scott D'Amore, hence why it was held somewhere else. And if there's anybody that has been a shining star as of late in Impact Wrestling, it has been Moose. He's been tremendous, and he has dropped weight. He looks in tremendous shape, and he was fantastic in this matchup. And when he faces someone like Kenny Omega, who is my favourite wrestler, I'm wearing his t-shirt right now if you haven't seen it, he put in a fantastic performance, but Kenny Omega did here too, and this was seriously, for me personally, a match of the year contender so far. This was an outstanding back and forth matchup between two of the very best in the world, no joke. And this was what a world title match can and should be when you've got two caliber athletes like this. They worked the match up brilliantly. They didn't rush anything. The high impact moves, no pun intended again. The moves that were hit at the right time, and it clicked between these two. It really, really did. And despite the fact the Good Brothers were not there, the Young Bucks were. And of course, the Young Bucks are executive producers and, of course, the AEW World Tag Team Champions. They interfered in the matchup with a BT trigger and then helping Moose onto Kenny Omega's shoulders for the one-winged angel to retain the title. But that was only half the story of this matchup, because the other half was two tremendous wrestlers going back and forth, showing what they can do, and honestly putting on the matchup that really did grab my attention. I thought this is what a world title match is, should be, and can be. I loved it. And probably, I'm not going to say Moose's best performance to date, because Moose has had some tremendous performances, no questions asked. But one of his, that's for sure. And him and Kenny just clicked. I mean, Moose and Kenny could pretty much click with anybody else they face each other in the ring when they're facing in the ring. Sorry, but these two clicked brilliantly, and I thought a strong, hard-hitting performance from Kenny Omega was what was needed against someone like Moose. So Kenny winning was the right call, I thought, even though I was half expecting Moose to win because I think Moose has been on a tear. He's been the man to watch in Impact Wrestling lately, and Kenny on a home field advantage at Daily's Place. Won the 1 Winged Angel thanks to the Young Bucks, admittedly. But I don't think that's just going to be the end. I think it's only just the beginning between what's going to happen here because after the matchup, Sami Callihan arrived on the scene to try and take out Kenny May because he is the next man that's possibly going to be facing Kenny Omega. Say why. After the match, Don Callis and Scott D'Amore from Impact Wrestling were on the AEW commentary table with Tony Schiavone. Now, after, of course, Sami came out and tried to attack Kenny Omega, Don Callis, who is Kenny Omega's uncle, I think his uncle. Yes, I think it's his uncle. Pretty sure it is. Decided to try and stop Sami, and then ended up firing Sami Callihan. So interesting there. And of course, Scott D'Amore was trying to get into explanation as to why he did it, but of course, that's how the pay-per-view ended. So Impact Wrestling is going to be a very interesting show to watch this week. That is for sure. And it's just further proof that Impact Wrestling has just been excellent to watch all year round so far. And, it's going a little bit under the radar for some people, but it's been great viewing for those who see it up right in the front and the centre. So, definite thumbs up for sure for Kenny and Moose for producing an outstanding match. Seriously, as I said, one of my matches of the year. And this was a cracking end to what was a very good pay-per-view overall from Impact Wrestling. Though, again, like All Elite Wrestling, they're just firing all cylinders. They're just doing nothing wrong, really. So, definite thumbs up to everybody involved on All Against All Odds, pay-per-view for producing a solid, cracking show. And on that positive note, I will end the review here. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. Until next time, take care.